Come on in, have a seat. I'll grab an extra chair for you. All right.
Are you from Pittsburgh? I've always been a Steelers fan.
No, I'm not from Pittsburgh. So I'm from Los Angeles.
Okay.
We didn't have a team. You know, we had the Oakland Raiders. San Diego was it Chargers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were saying, can you put that around his neck for me? Cool.
Here we go. You know what that
No,
is.
everybody's in LA.
Hey, that's enough. That's enough.
So let me have you back up. Unclip that leash, please.
It's okay, guys.
Stop talking to him for me, please. So how you guys behave and interact right now will affect whether or not he'll do anything to me. So right there, I put too much pressure on him. He's insecure. You see his tail. You see the hackles on the back there. So this is probably why that trainer didn't want to handle him. Because he's a big boy. He's got that low growl, right? He definitely shows intention to bite. But you see where he wants to go back to right now? He wants to go back to you, right? Because when he's with you guys, it's 3 versus 1. When he's with me, it's 1-on-1. And because I'm standing up to him and I'm not backing off, he's like, I don't know about that guy, right? Now, he doesn't trust me, which is fine. We don't know each other. But I could tell just from the moment he came out how insecure he is, okay? Just low head to the ground, very skittish, very hesitant walking in here, right? And so I want to show him like, hey, I don't mean you any harm, but I'm not going to let you do that here, right? There's rules here. Okay. So a couple things I'm evaluating here is whether or not he has separation anxiety, how he reacts when he's away from you. He's only like 2 feet away from you, 3 feet away from you. I also got to make sure he's not going to try to sneak bite me. All right. How y'all doing today? We good? Awesome. So I just like to ask some questions, get an understanding of where we are, then we'll dive right into everything and I'll address all your issues, okay? So we got Teresa, we got John. What's your name?
Chance.
Chance? Nice to meet you. I'm Daniel. All righty. So how old is Remo?
He is 2 years.
And then how old was he when you got? Or you said he was born into the family, right?
Yeah,
We
he's
delivered
8
him.
weeks whenever I picked him up.
Okay. And he's your dog?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And you have mom, dad, and another dog, you said?
Mm-hmm.
2 other dogs? So 5 dogs total in one home, or?
I'm by myself.
Okay, so he lives with you, and then you guys have the other 4.
Right.
Okay.
They just had the lawn because they struggle to talk sometimes.
Yeah. What kind of food does he eat?
He eats blue wilderness and a mixture of the what's the weapon they use to do?
Fancy feast?
Benful.
Benful
The wet.
and
So it's a mixture of kibble and wet?
yeah, kibble
Okay.
and wet, and sometimes if I cook chicken, I'll make some plain chicken. And that's
And for breakfast, I give him oatmeal with honey.
Oatmeal with what?
Honey.
Honey? I thought you said onions. I was going to be like, that's not good. What's his feeding schedule?
So normally she makes a bowl for him at 9. He doesn't eat food for her at 9. He doesn't eat until I get home at around 2. And then we normally eat dinner at 4:30.
So would you say his meals are structured, or would you say he kind of free feeds, just eats whenever he wants? Like, does he graze?
So the stuff she leaves for breakfast, he'll kind of graze, but at dinner time he will go and eat it.
Okay. Are there any medical issues I should be aware of? Any injuries, surgeries, allergies, medication for anything?
No.
He's intact?
Good. He's intact.
Okay. And then you worked with Starmark previously. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
So I did Starmart and stuff. It was working on. He listens very well when say doing simple commands like sit, stay, like that. His main issue that he's struggling with is more so the interaction with peoples and other dogs. Again, like you mentioned, he's feeling very insecure. I mean, if you were to meet his dad, his biggest fear is an empty box. Don't know why.
An empty box?
Yeah, just an empty box sitting there. Don't know why he's scared of it. But meanwhile, you meet his dad. He'll tear that box apart out of fun. But him, he's like, why'd you bring this devil in here?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why he does that. And I haven't hit him with the box. As far as I know, the boxes haven't teamed up on him.
Right.
He's just very insecure about certain things.
Yeah. Okay. So that to me sounds like environmentals, right? So like places, people, things, weather, sounds, feelings, locations, flooring, all the things that puppies need to be exposed to when they're small, so that they understand what the expectation is, versus never allowing them to experience it, and then into adulthood when they're closer to 100 pounds and they have a deep growl trying to do it, that's when they start to react and freak out. It's like if you were up 100 stories and the floor was glass, you'd be looking down to your ultimate demise, you'd be scared, right? But if from a kid you're used to being around skyscrapers and heights, it's not going to affect you at all. So that's environmental training, right? I know Starmark. I went to Starmark. I got certified by Starmark. I hate it. They focus a lot on obedience. And so what ends up happening is people tend to use obedience as the consequence. Dog does something they're not supposed to do, sit. Now you're associating the obedience command as the negative punishment for their behavior. Does that make sense? It's like when people say your name right before they chew you out. You hear your name, you go, crap, what did I do now? Right? And that's the two things people use the most, is the dog's name and then an obedience command. And then what happens is the dog associates their name and the command as a bad thing. They don't do the obedience command, so they're disobeying you, and then they keep doing the behavior you're trying to correct them for. So it's a trifecta of things that you don't want. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Questions, comments, concerns about that?
Well, the environmental, he was exposed to boxes and everything when there was a pup.
So why is he afraid of boxes now?
8 weeks.
You what?
We had all the puppies till the 8 weeks. And then we kept Remo for I don't know how much longer.
Up until February. So after they were born, it's like 8 months.
So, and I'd always have a box, and I'd put toys in it, or I'd throw it out there, or
the broom.
They would grab it and just play tug with it.
Him included?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the toys would be in the box, and sometimes they'd get in the box to get the toys.
Yeah.
So here's the thing too, is it boils down to the dog's individual temperament, right? There's a nature aspect, there's a nurture aspect. Nature is genetics, right? Mom and dad, what their behaviors are, transfer down into him. Right. That's DNA, right? And then there's nurture, how we develop the dog, how we raise the dog. So there's also developmental phases. So dogs go through about 12 developmental phases throughout the first 2 years of life. 2 of those phases are fear imprint periods. And so the first one happens between 6 and 16 weeks. The next one happens between like 6 and 10 months. And it's different with every dog. Some have it sooner, some have it later. But during that fear imprint period, if they have a negative association to something, it can follow them into adulthood like PTSD does with humans, right? And so just because he was okay with it once doesn't mean something didn't happen between now and then. Obviously, if you guys haven't beat the shit out of him with the box, haven't done anything for him to be acting this way with the box, and he still is, something's going on there, right? And so that could just be his individual temperament is, you know, we talked about it a little bit on the phone, and like I can tell, like, it's okay. You reassure this dog way too much. It is okay, but we don't need to. It's not like with humans, right? If you're over there sad, I'm gonna come over, give you a hug, tell you, hey, you're fine, reassure you. But with dogs, you get what you pet. So if the dog is nervous, anxious, stressed, and you give him verbal praise is permission. You give him affection, you get what you pet. You have to ignore, address, or correct the behavior that you don't want, right? So if he's making a big deal out of nothing, making mountains out of anthills, I'm going to ignore it until I can, right? If he's vocalizing to the point I can't hear myself think or have a conversation with you across this table, I need to address that. Hey, knock it off. If he's still with the shits, then I need to correct that. Hey, I mean it. I'm serious. Enough. Then once he's chill, I'm chill, right? But with this insecurity of like not wanting to walk through the door, not wanting to be away from mom and dad, not wanting a stranger to come over, And I did that on purpose, right? Because you told me the nature of the bite was, I think somebody came while he was with you, right? So now the variables here are, one, this dog is sensitive to pressure. Spatial pressure is still pressure, right? That's like the walls closing in. I think he resource guards you. He's being possessive of you, not protective of you, right? Unless you've trained the dog to be protective, or his natural genetic instinct is to be a guard dog and protect, he's not protecting, he's possessing. That's my shiny red ball, stay the hell away. Does that make sense? And so this comes from relationship, right? Individual relationships. You're different with your boss than you are with your friend than you are with your coworker, right? You have your own unique relationships with them. And that comes through lifestyle, how you live with the dog, the expectations, the rules, the boundaries. And I think it's a culmination of all of those things, because, you know, you also have a unique situation where you guys own the mom, the dad, and all the pups went to the family, right? And so, like, that's a dog trainer's worst nightmare. Cause I don't know if you've ever heard of littermate syndrome, but it's a very real thing. And so, you know, the fact that you guys have these power breeds and you're living with them the way you are, and this is the only issue you have, I give you kudos, because most people would have had very significant issues by this point. And you guys sound, I think it was you I was speaking to on the phone, you sound like you're very involved and that you know your stuff. So I respect that too. And I don't mind questions or like you know, talking to me about stuff. I want to make sure that I know where you're coming from, so that I don't speak to you like the normal uneducated, you know, dog owner that doesn't know what they're doing. But to your point, you know, yeah, you've done the work, but this dog has also developed. They've changed, right? I was a different person before I went into the military than when I got out of the military than who I am today. And I'm always evolving. I'm always looking to get better. And with dogs, unless you do the work for them and work them through these things, it's not that they don't get better, but they learn how to navigate the world using a means of communication. And so I'm in the mindset that there's two forms of aggression. There's aggression as a mindset, I am aggressive, and there's aggression as a tool, I use aggression because it works. And so he's using aggression because it works. Because right now he's closer to me than he's ever been before, and if he wanted to bite me, he has every chance to. He's even gone under my desk, gotten right by my foot. So even though that was the initial reaction, I handled it accordingly. I let him know, hey, you don't do that with me. I earn his respect. I'm gaining his trust because I'm not correcting him just for existing, right? Don't start no shit, won't be no shit. And now he's laying down being a good boy, which is great.
Now, he hasn't been with the other dogs, for over a year now?
Pretty much, yeah, last year, because him and another dog were having the alpha issues or something like that. One was trying to be the alpha, or he was trying to be the alpha. And
who was it?
What? Niraj, one of the pups.
Yeah.
They're both big boys. They're both 80-pounders.
Yeah.
And Niraj,
Who's older? Him or
They're
same age?
both,
Okay.
Yeah, they're
minutes.
good brothers.
Yeah. Sorry.
But technically he's older.
Ever since they were little bitty, Niraj was in charge. He would sit there and watch them, take care of them. And when mom would go to play with them, he would go and protect the pups from mom. So he's always been the protector.
This is Dad we're talking about?
No.
This is Niraj, one of the pups.
Okay.
So now, whenever it was about her protected, I want her, she's my red ball, and Niraj says, this is my red ball, this is my house, you follow my rules, and they got into it.
So we had to separate.
Two big boys.
And that's common with litter mates. That's why, you know, that's why we don't say to do that. But and look, it's not, I want to be clear, it's not about alpha. There is a hierarchy. There's a rank structure, right? And when you don't let the dog know who's in charge through rules, structures, boundaries, the dogs let you know through what you're describing here, right? And so it's likely that dog you're talking about has the temperament of a type A, confident, dominant dog. And so he's policing up the rest of the pack because nobody else is stepping up to do that. This is where me as the owner, I'm going to come in and be like, hey, buckle down. You're not in charge. You just live here. I pay the bills. I'm in charge. Right.
I wasn't there.
Sure.
It was me.
Right. But even still, right? It's you guys are all pack members, right?
Yeah.
These are pack animals. And so all the humans need to be up on the higher hierarchy over every single one of the dogs. Sure, you may have one dog that's the clear leader out of the rest, but he answers to you, to you, to you in the same fashion. Yeah, maybe a little bit better to him because he's more consistent, but ultimately you guys should have a baseline of respect amongst all the dogs in the household, right? Whether they live there or they don't. Especially if they're getting into fights. Because, I mean, it's hard to stop a dog fight, right? It's a primal instinct, right? They're just being dogs. Boys will be boys, dogs will be dogs. So I know that's a lot. We kind of went zigzagged a little bit, but any questions so far? Any concerns?
No, I know it's what you said. I haven't been around Remo that much, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's control, and because I'll say, "What the hell are you doing?"
Right.
And they're like, "Oh shit."
Right.
Exactly. What the hell
Right.
are you doing?
And you have a presence about you, right? Men typically have more of a presence than women. Women are just more softer in nature. They're nurturing women. They have a soft, bubbly voice. Versus men, like we're stoic, we're tall, we're big. We have a commanding voice. Right. And so dogs respect that, right? Though dogs find clarity in the consequence. And you don't look like you play any games. So I'm sure you're very consistent, right? And the dogs respect you for that. You're the leader. They're like, yep, dad says it, he means it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But when you make suggestions or you negotiate, which we don't negotiate with terrorists, right? And in those moments, they're being emotional terrorists. So, yeah. So, let me break down. I want to break down how I do training, what my philosophy is, so you could get an understanding of it, and then we'll dive into all the intricacies of everything. So I break training down into 3 segments. There's how you live with the dog, that's coexisting. There's behavior, and then there's obedience. How you live with the dog is the most important, right? So I'm going to ask you a question, I'll give you an example, and then I'll give you a chance to answer. So, what rules does Remo have to follow in your home? Some examples of rules that my dogs have to follow: you're not allowed to bolt out of an open door, you're not allowed on furniture, you can't jump on guests, you can't eat food off the floor, and you can't take food out of my kids' hands. What are rules that Remo has to follow in your home?
So, no taking food out of the hands, no food on the couch, and I'm losing my words. No food on the couch, and then no toys on the bed.
Okay. Does he ever try to take food out of people's hands? Okay. Does he ever bring food onto the couch?
Honestly, not in a while, no sir.
Okay. Does he ever bring toys onto the bed?
Not in a while either.
Okay. So what I'm trying to highlight here is either your dog knows it's a rule and doesn't care, or he doesn't understand that it's a rule. So I would ask you, what work have you done to teach him that that is a rule?
So as far as the food out of the hands, he has to sit and I have to offer it. And he's not running over to bite it on my hands, or grab it on my hands.
So that's transactional, right? You do this, you get that. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, how did you teach him it's not okay for him to snatch food out of people's hands? And if the answer is I didn't, or I don't know, that's fine too.
Hell no. No, that's what I say. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
You?
I pretty much snapped and said no.
Okay. So, and so what to me, that tells me that this is more of an expectation, right? Because why don't you wake up every morning and commit murder? Because you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That's a rule that we understand, right? So that's what I'm trying to get across here is I think you guys have the expectation of what you don't want him to do, but he doesn't understand it as a rule. Because sometimes it's allowed, sometimes he gets away with it, sometimes he gets corrected, sometimes he doesn't. And so if there's an inconsistency there and the rules only reinforce 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, there's always that chance he can get away with it. For me, the rule is 10 out of 10 times. Every time I catch you doing this, or every time you do this, there's a consequence. Every time you don't, things are good, right? And so that's why I ask it that way, because I don't want to just tell you you have no rules. I want to know, what have you done to communicate it's a rule? Is it working? And if it is, why is the dog still doing it? Because then that leads me to believe he either doesn't understand it as a rule or he doesn't care. Neither of which are okay. Does that make sense? Now, here's a fun little exercise. If I go, hey man, you look nice today, how would you respond?
Thank you.
If I go, hey man, you look nice today, how would you respond?
Awkward.
But I gave you a compliment, why aren't you happy? So sometimes we think we're saying one thing and the dog's interpreting another, right? It's not just I say you do, it's I say you interpret, you say back. And so if we're not taking into consideration what the dog is interpreting or communicating back, we're missing half the conversation. Sure, there's some things where I don't give a damn what you're saying, you're going to do it anyway, but it's not a dictatorship, right? It's teamwork. I'm the leader, you're the subordinate, but I need to take your feedback into consideration. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's coexisting in a nutshell. Let's move on to behavior, right? So behavior is all the things I've been pointing out: the hackles, the tail, the insecurity, the low growling, the spatial pressure. These are all behavioral traits from a dog, right, that has a genetic predisposition to these behaviors that we're experiencing. The dog aggression, the fighting for hierarchy, resource guarding, all of these things. Some of them are genetic, some of them are nurtured. And that's through your relationship with the dog and the way that you've raised and nurtured the dog, right? So if you understand the psychology behind the behavior, the motivation behind the behavior, some with the dog stuff, it could be prey drive, it could be dog aggression, it could be fear aggression, right? We'll find out here in a bit. But if you know the motivation and where it's coming from, it's much easier to address it. Because if you address fear aggression as like real aggression, you could make the dog more fear aggressive, right? And then you're kind of spiraling down the wrong way. Or if you take prey drive and you take it as, oh, he just wants to be social and play, well, now you got a dead dog on your hands, right? And so knowing is half the battle, okay? Lastly, there's obedience. It's the least important of the three, but it does have its purpose. When I tell you to sit, you sit. When I call you, you come. When we walk on leash, you don't pull, right? These are just basic commands that I can teach the dog so that I can help him navigate the world and have positions of control, right? After I correct you from doing something wrong, come back to me and sit. Wait till I release you, right? It's got to be transactional in a way where the dog is giving you maximum effort for minimum benefit. You have to do all this just to be able to come out of your crate. You have to do all this just to be able to walk out that door, right? And that's walking politely on leash, giving me a sit, looking at me, waiting for me to release you, right? Questions, comments, concerns about any of that?
So you think not having, I guess, enough boundaries is the reason why, that a dog acts out in a sense?
9 out of 10 times when people walk through these doors with behavioral issues, there's a lack of structure, rules, and boundaries. Okay. There's too much freedom, too much privilege, okay. Not enough consequences, okay. Right? 1 out of 10 times you have a genetically aggressive dog that you're going to have to manage for the rest of their lives. But most of the aggressive cases and behavioral cases I get come from positive reinforcement only homes or permissive homes. And I'm not saying that that's where he's coming from, mm-hmm. But there's some red flags here that I've seen, and there is a lot of coddling and a lot of reassuring where there doesn't need to be. And then on the other side of it, there's a lot of structure and regiment coming from you, which is great, which is why you have the respect that you have with the dogs, but it's inconsistent and it's making the dog insecure. Because around this person, I have to be one way. Around these people, I can be a completely total opposite way. Would you agree or disagree?
No, I agree.
Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. So now that you kind of have an understanding of my philosophy, how I approach things, what are you hoping to accomplish through training with me? How is it that I can help you?
Did you go first?
Yeah, just hold on. Come on, bud. All right, come on in. Okay, so already stalking behavior. He got low. The tail's low. A little stress shake. Licking his lips. Don't make eye contact with him. You can't see it because he's got the harness on, but the hackles are up here and they're up here. So you see he's being avoidant. He keeps wanting to go back to y'all. Okay. So I got a Rottweiler there, I got a Staffy there, and I got a Doberman over here. So would you say this is the same, worse, or better than he would normally react with the dog barking at him? He would normally walk up to them? Do you see this behavior here? This is what you're talking about? So ignore him. So what's different about this dog than those dogs? But sure, but right now in this moment, what's different about this dog than those dogs? He's small. He's small, he's scared, he's not as confident as those dogs. Strength repels aggression, weakness draws aggression. Okay. Go ahead, go back in. All right. Questions about anything you saw in there?
I guess I was really surprised he didn't lunge more or not, but maybe, I don't know.
Well, there's a couple of factors. One, he's in a neutral environment where he's not confident and comfortable being himself. Two, he's not with y'all, so there's no motivation to protect or possess or resource guard, right? Three, he's with me, who I've been de-escalating his aggression the moment he walked in here, right? Every time he does something he's not supposed to do, I'm there with the feedback and I correct him. So he's not as comfortable being himself, right? But all of the, I guess the foundational things of the behavior are there. The hackles, so that's called piloerection. It's like when we get goosebumps. So that tells me he's aroused, right? Physically, you can see it on his spine and on his shoulders. The way the tail is tucked, right? I told you wagging tail doesn't mean happy dog. It just depends on the context. So the tail is down low, almost tucked. So that tells me he's nervous, insecure, fearful, right? And then here's the thing is like when dogs get insecure like that, they tend to overcompensate. So when he started targeting the small dog that wasn't reacting at all, minding his own business, that tells me, okay, yeah, you're being a bully right now. You're overcompensating. You were a bitch over there, but you want to be strong over here.
Yeah.
Right? So again, insecure, fearful dog. Now, he does have the potential to be an aggressive dog, right? Like all the genetics are there. It's just, it's not his temperament. He'd rather be a chill dog. It's just when he feels fear, fight, flight, or freeze, those genetics are still there. Those natural primal instincts are still there. He's still a dog. And so that's why we have to communicate in a way that makes sense to him, right? And that's through correcting behaviors in the moment. Outside of that, being preventative and working on rule structures and boundaries so the dog is always tuned in to having to listen and having to do, maximum effort for minimum benefit. It's a psychological thing. It's the reason why when dad looks at you, you know what time it is. He doesn't have to lift a finger for you to know you're in trouble. That is the level of respect I want from my dog. I look at you and you go, yep, you're right. Does that make sense? Questions, comments, concerns?
What was the other dog?
Which one?
You had the Rot.
The Rottweiler, there was a Staffy, and then there was a Doberman.
Okay. The Rot, the taller one on the right, he
Yeah.
wasn't confrontational. He was just being an ass, being loud.
Just barrier frustration.
Yeah, so that's why I was wanting to know who was making him react. Because he was just being a nuisance.
Correct. None of the dogs made, the little dog made him react.
Yeah, no. But back there, he was like, oh shit.
I think it was just a situation of walking into this new, it's the same thing walking into this room.
Mm-hmm.
It's that same element, except now there's overstimulation, there's sounds, there's smells,
So were
there's,
the other dogs just looking?
yeah, the Staffy was just chilling, the Dobie was just kind of like, hey, what's up? It's just the Rottweiler that was barking.
Being an ass.
Yeah. And that's Reggie.
No, that's what, he wasn't reacting to that.
Right.
And that's what I thought he would. Because he's just like, hey, bitch, come
Yeah.
on over here.
Nope.
But it wasn't like that. It's like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's like, hey, who the fuck you? Why you here? Let me out.
Yeah, I want to play if you're
Yeah.
not going to be out. Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I get that. And that's why I was asking about who else was back there because
Yeah.
he didn't give a shit about the road.
Yeah, he didn't.
But the other one was scared. The other one was like, oh my God, not another one.
Yeah. So, but this is good. This tells me you don't have an aggressive dog. It just tells me you have a dog that's using aggression as a means of communication. Doesn't make it any less risky or dangerous because he can still get, like, if he's already put teeth on skin and here he definitely would have bit me if I didn't know what I was doing. This is where things start to escalate because he's only 2 years old. Dogs reach social and sexual maturity at about 2.5, 3 years old. He's intact. So now you're adding testosterone to that behavior. It could become dominance behavior. You already have that with his brother, right? With the sibling. So there's just a lot of variables, a lot of factors here, right? And it's not to fearmonger or scare you, but it's to make you aware of, you know, what road we could be leading down.
Well, we had the other the other 3 males are all fixed.
Okay. Is there a reason he's not, or we have a plan for that, or?
What is your recommendation?
So if you're not going to breed them, you're not going to show them and compete with them, then I think neutering is good for preventative, right? We don't want to have unplanned litters. I would wait until the dog is fully matured and developed to do so, because if not, if you neuter a dog before they're socially and sexually mature, it's like giving a 12-year-old a vasectomy before they go through puberty. You're going to mess things up hormonally, right? As is, anytime he's with conflict, there's a cortisol spike and a dopamine dump, and it takes him a long time to regulate that. Once you take testosterone out of there, you're going to unregulate him further, right? So it's up to you. I would say if you want to neuter him, do so in the next 6 months to a year. If you don't, you can keep him intact. I don't see any dominance-based behaviors. This is all fear aggression. So it wouldn't help in the grand scheme of things. It might actually make things worse initially, right? Because once you cut out the testosterone, huge hormonal imbalance makes the dog more unpredictable because he himself is going through those changes and he doesn't understand, right?
We got lucky.
You got lucky?
None of that.
Yeah.
But we had them done for her safety because the aggression.
Well, I mean, yeah, living with those dogs, it's no joke, man. And that's why I'm like, huge respect, because even myself as a professional trainer, I wouldn't want to do that. It's a lot of work. It's just way different when you're dealing with members of the same family. You can have a multi-dog household. I have 3 dogs. I have the Staffy, a Husky, and a German Shepherd mix.
Wow.
But and I have 3 small girls, 3, 5, and 7. So like, best believe there's rules that are non-negotiable in my house, especially because my Staffy's my personal protection dog. He has a bite command, right? He'll bite you if I tell you. And so those dogs need to come with a certain level of respect and rules and non-negotiables. And there's things that my Husky and my Shepherd mix can do that my Pit Bull can't. And that's just because he's a different dog. He's not for that purpose, right? And so these are pet dogs, but they have working dog qualities. And so we need to put those working dog qualities under stimulation control and put a cap on them, or at the very least be able to control it when shit hits the fan, which is difficult. It's an 80-pound dog. I mean, there's a physical mismatch here, right? Even me being 6'5", 300 pounds, he's going to give me a run for my money. You know, I've trained dogs. There's a 185-pound Borbell. Do you know what a Borbell is? I just did an eval on a 185-pound Borbell that had attacked his entire family, starting from the 13-year-old to the mom to the 15-year-old to ultimately the dad. And now here I come, a dog, 185-pound dog, sounds like a Harley Davidson doing a cold start. What do you think I'm going to do? What do you think he's going to do to me? Right? And so when you live with these breeds, you got to have a healthy respect for what they are, which is dogs. They're predators. But yeah, man, I mean, I think in the grand scheme of things, he's not a bad dog. I think it's just, he looks scary, he sounds scary, he's misunderstood, but the danger is there for something very real to happen, especially as he matures over time. Because to me, you know, people always ask me, what do you think is more dangerous, a dominant aggressive dog or a fear aggressive dog? And I always say it's the fear aggressive ones, because there's nothing they won't do to preserve themselves, to preserve their life. That makes a dog more unpredictable, scarier. A dominant dog, I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to dominate me. All I got to do is dominate him first, and it's over. But these fear aggressive dogs that think I'm trying to kill them, they're going to fight to the death. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you had mentioned goals. Now, we have a 2-year-old great-granddaughter, and our boy's babysitter. They don't take food from her.
Your dogs babysit her?
I'm there.
Well, she's there, but they
hurt
take her
her.
out, play with her. She throws the ball for them.
She actually takes it out of her.
I know what you're saying, but it's not.
No, I'm hearing you out, man. I'm just hearing you out.
She'll sit there and feed them goldfish,
Yeah.
and they will not take it from her until she lets go of it.
Okay.
If she gets upset, Mirage is there to comfort. They take care of her. They keep her in line in the yard. Don't let her go too far. And when it's time to come in, they make sure that she comes in. They're her babysitters.
I'll tell you. Go ahead.
So we took her to Remo, and she thought Remo was one of her boys, and Remo was a little aggressive. So we muzzled him, and then we removed the girl from the situation, just because we didn't know how he would react to the child. So when you mention goals, you never know when there's going to be a child around. You never know when a stranger's going to come up. Some people love dogs. Some people think they go up to any dog and hug them. Don't do that.
Well,
And then people are scared of dogs, and that's just as bad. So the goal for Remo would be to be able to socialize with people and pets, and not have to worry about losing your, having your arm yanked off, having jumping out of the car, having people.
some people ask and some people don't. They just reach down. You're like, don't stop.
Yeah. So here's the thing. For me, socializing the dog means ignore everything and everyone and pay attention to only me. Once you can do that as a default, then I will work on interactions, right? So the two are separate from each other. One is, what is the behavioral expectation when you're around people, places, things? And then the next one is, what do you do when you're interacting with them, right? Most people like to make them together and force interactions and make the dog be friendly. So that's kind of the way I would break that down, is first teach them what's expected just when they're present. Next thing to do is teach them what to do when they invade your space or when they come closer and you have to interact with them. Now, ultimately, it boils down to the dog, because you got to understand, these dogs, they have free will. They make decisions. And if the dog is deciding to bite, I don't care how badly you don't want it, you have to respect that that is a choice the dog is willing to make. And so there's a fork in the road of whether you manage the situation and understand that it's a possibility, or you beat that choice out of the dog. When I say beat that choice out of the dog, I'm not saying physically beat the dog, but he has to have a come to Jesus moment where he understands that is not allowed. And even doing so, if the influence is you and you're not there and they are, he could take his chances. It's not translatable automatically like that, right? The other thing I will say is, I get that nothing's happened yet. And I get that you have a trust for the dogs with your 2-year-old granddaughter because of the way the relationship is. But what you are communicating to those dogs right now is that they are in charge of that dog's or that girl's well-being. It's a puppy pass.
It's not like she's in charge. She allows the dogs, whenever they, like Ivar, the young one, or the small one, she's like, no, get out of there. So he leaves the room because he likes to try and take her crackers.
Mm-hmm.
But no, the other ones, they respect the space. They don't mess with her. They hang with her. She goes up to him and gives him a hug and a kiss.
I know, brother. I know. I'm telling you, I know. I have a 3-year-old that likes to do the same thing to my Staffy. And look, I've trained that Staffy from start to finish. I trust that Staffy. I know what that Staffy's capable of. I'm not saying you're delusional. What I'm saying is I'm not delusional to think that nothing could happen. When he's on his bed chewing his blanket and she comes up and sits down eye level with him and puts her arm around him, he looks at me. And that's him letting me know, hey, I'm uncomfortable. And so I say, hey, give him space, back off. I call the shots. I don't let my dog call the shots. I don't let my daughter call the shots, because she's a 3-year-old girl that doesn't have the emotional intelligence to understand consequences.
Right.
And that's all I want to point out.
No, we got all that. I mean,
Okay.
it's the trust with Remo around a little girl. After what we've seen last time, I don't trust him around a kid.
And I would say that's a smart thing.
Now, Ivar and Mirage, I watched the interaction. I've had to, and usually whenever I'll scold them, but I'll scold the little girl too. So leave my dogs alone. Boys, go. Valentina, get over here. And they're like, okay, cool. She got in trouble too. And it wasn't anybody getting in trouble. I just wanted to.
No, but you're calling the shots.
Yeah, I just want to separate.
Right.
Okay, these
Can you do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With them, yes.
100% of the time, every time? Okay.
Yeah, I don't leave her alone with her.
Yeah, and that's fine, but I'm just saying, because here's the thing that people never consider, right? If those dogs that you've trusted up until this point that haven't done anything, one day decide to wake up and choose violence, is there anything you can do to stop them short of putting a bullet in them? I'm asking.
I think so, yeah.
You think you can take on 2 80-pound dogs?
I will try.
I'm sure you will. But do you see what I'm saying? Is you got to have that healthy doubt, that healthy respect for what a dog can do. They have a lower center of gravity. They're close to 100 pounds. All they have to do is bring you down to the ground, and now pack mentality takes over and you're done for. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you raised them since they were puppies. Dogs are still dogs, right? Mm-hmm. And so just have that in your mind when you're doing these things, because I deal with a lot of children that get bit, and when a dog decides to do it, they've never done it before until they did. So that's all I'm saying, right? I believe that you have control. I believe that you trust those dogs, and I believe that things have been good up to this point. But she's a 2-year-old girl. The dogs likely perceive her as like a puppy. And once that puppy is no longer a puppy and everybody's complacent because things have been good up until this point, now she's an adult, or the dog perceives her as an adult and will correct her as an adult. Right? That's all.
No, we watch all that. We make sure the dogs don't resource guard. Like, if the kid goes up there and wants to eat kibble with them, we don't encourage that, but she's not going to get bit.
Okay.
The dogs respect the fact that she's there. They look at you like you said, this is awkward.
Right.
We remove the child.
Right.
But they're not going to react.
And so long as you keep doing that and you advocate when you need to, it'll be good.
Because
right?
I always remove the food from the dogs. Just because I don't want anybody reaching down there to pick something up and the dog thinks, oh shit, they're trying to steal my food.
Right.
No, I'm going to take your damn food.
Yep.
I'm feeding you. If I don't want to feed you, I'm going to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
You be respectful. You're in my house. That type of situation.
Yeah. And as long as don't start no shit, won't be no shit. But it's different with him. It's way different with him because his comes out of insecurity. It's this icky feeling he gets. It's an impulsivity, and he doesn't even realize what he's doing until it's done.
Do you think dogs sense, like, if I'm scared, do you think they sense that?
Well, they read body language very well. So if you start to like move differently, they can read that. We also let off a pheromone whenever we are in fight, flight, or freeze, so they can smell that, and then they can associate. The thing that throws dogs off with me is I'm not impenetrable to fear, right? Like there's definitely moments where I have pucker effects, right? Especially when dealing with dogs like this. The difference is I'm able to visibly show confidence, right? I don't look scared. I don't act scared. I may be a little bit internally nervous, right? Because I'm dealing with something that's high stakes, but the dog can't tell. And so they smell it, but they don't see it. Now they get insecure, they get unsure, they act differently. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. This is why I'm saying strength propels aggression. Weakness draws aggression. It's like, I don't know if you guys are 2 for flinching. I flinch at you, you go, whoa, and then I punch you twice because you're flinching. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing with dogs, right?
So basically we need to build his confidence, right? In a sense, yes, but not in the sense of like overpowering us.
Right.
Setting, making him feel confident about himself.
Just stop feeling insecure as a baseline. Yeah. Be neutral. That's what I want to work towards, is neutrality. Once we've established neutrality as a default response, then we can build and turn that into confidence, right? Or we can turn that into what to do when you feel this way, what to do when you see this, when you hear that. But it all starts with how you're living with the dog, right? And the inconsistencies of like when you're away and then you come and let him out, and then sometimes John handles him, and then, you know what I mean? Like there just needs to be... Right. And if all 3 of you are on the same page doing exactly what you need to do, it's going to be easier for him to conform. Right. And And then the other thing too is it takes us as humans about 3 weeks to develop new habits. It takes dogs about 3 months to develop long-term memory. So that's 90 days of consistently doing the same thing over and over. The routine is the routine, the habit is the habit, the rule is the rule. So right now he's in the negatives, right? Took him 2 years to get to this point. It's going to take a little bit of time to undo. Some dogs pick it up quicker than others. If we're consistent for that 3-month period, right, that'll bring you to 0. And then consistent for another 3 months will bring you into the positives. And from there, it's just management. You maintain. It's like you work out to lose 50 pounds. You lost the 50 pounds. Now you just got to stretch, go to the gym 3 to 4 days a week, and you can maintain those results. Does that make sense? Any questions, comments, concerns before we talk about a training plan or anything like that? None at all?
You have anything?